Welcome to HealthCast, the heartbeat of health IT. I'm Alexander Bolova, production lead at GovCIO Media and Research. With me today is managing editor Ross Gianfortune. Hi, Ross.
Hi, Alex.
You had the opportunity to chat with Nikolaos Ipiotis, CIO at ARPA-H. How'd it go?
It was great. It was his first, podcast recording since he got named to the position recently. We were lucky to be able to set this up with him and talk to him, about his view of the job, the view of what's going on at ARPA-H and the speed of innovation there, and generally his outlook on the entire healthcare innovation world, and particularly in the public sector.
So tell me about Nikolaos's background. What did he do prior to this position, and when was he selected as CIO for ARPA-H?
So he was named last month to the job. He was previously at the Department of Health and Human Services for a couple of years as the chief data officer. And we talked a lot about data and data strategy in the conversation. He talked about how much he was involved with trying to figure out what HHS and ARPA-H have in common when it comes to data strategy and the huge amount of data, obviously, that health systems have, and something that ARPA-H has to bring forward and move forward. Like I said earlier, I think the innovation thing is really interesting, and he talked about that with regards to data and his previous experience, because one of the things he said that I thought was really interesting was ARPA-H needs to not just keep pace with the private sector, but outpace it in terms of innovation, which is not something you often hear when we're talking about the public sector. And so his experience both as CDO of HHS and at the Center of Information Technology at NIH, he's seen a lot of the different aspects of these systems.
Yeah, that is a very interesting perspective on data and outdoing the private sector in terms of development. You're right. We don't hear that very often at all. And I know I'm interested in hearing more of the story behind that. So let's not keep our listeners waiting. Let's dive into your conversation.
Nikolaos Ipiotis is Chief Information Officer at the Advanced Research Projects Agency for Health, an independent agency of the National Institutes of Health that supports research in the biomedical and health breakthrough fields. Before being named to the ARPA-H position, he served as the Chief Data Officer at the Department of Health and Human Services. He joins me now to talk about ARPA-H, innovation, and everything in between. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
So how does ARPA-H encourage the high-risk, high-reward health innovation balance in its work?
Well, that's a very interesting question. And I tell you, this is more appropriate to ask from some of their mission folks that are working directly, providing innovative ideas and programs, aligned with their mission. But from what I understand, and actually in my short tenure here at ARPA-H, we do encourage innovation by being nimble. Being nimble, allowing these program managers actually to innovate on their own, right? And actually with the willingness to take risks, the willingness to try new things and try something that nobody has tried before.
Well, you mentioned that you're fairly new in the job. What have you seen so far that has been encouraging in your time so far in the position?
Actually, what I did notice even before I got the job, and I'll tell you a story. And I'm not sure which one of the interviewers asked me that question, right? But they were talking about innovative and how to advance the way we do business in the government. And I remember I did answer by saying that the government should never fall behind the private sector. We should always be on par. Just to be corrected seconds later to say, no, Nick, here we need to be ahead of the private sector. We need to try things that nobody has tried before and actually lead the way in terms of innovation. But I tell you, ARPA-H, and when I was thinking in my decision to come here or not, actually, it was a very attractive proposition because ARPA-H has like three key ingredients to do something amazing, right? The one thing, we are nimble. We are relatively small and allow us to be very agile and nimble, right? We do have relatively good resources to do what we need to do. But the most important than everything else is exactly what I said earlier: the willingness to take risks, the willingness to be able to try something new, and fail if we have to. Calculated risk, but fail if we have to learn for the next time.
How do you encourage that at ARPA-H? That's in government. That's not always part of the equation. And risk is not really a huge part of government, certainly not in the healthcare sector.
No, you're absolutely correct. And actually, I tell you, my experience from the government is that we try to avoid failure at all costs, right? Sometimes I think what we need to do is that we have to treat failure as part of the process, as part of the learning process. And pretty much, I'm not saying take risks that are like putting at risk the agency, but taking calculated risks that will produce some results. And actually, sometimes we will try some things that they're not going to work out for one reason or another, but that's the whole idea. We're going to learn from it and do it better next time. But if we don't try, we're not going to be able to succeed. In fact, and I want to say, I shouldn't go back to my Greek heritage, but one of the famous Greek people, Onassis, mentioned that the safest way to fail is not to try. And that's exactly what I believe. I think trying it, and even if you have a control failure, actually, that will be a benefit to us because we're going to learn something out of it.
Yeah, there's certainly a lot to learn from failure, especially controlled failure. You've worked in data a lot, so data sharing I know is tough in the healthcare world. Previously you've talked about the risk-reward balance that may discourage public servants in the innovation space, and particularly in the data sharing innovation space. How do you foment that risk-reward balance to the ways to learn about it?
That's right. So, and you're talking about data sharing, which is a topic that is very near and dear to my heart, because for the past 2+ years that I was the HHS CDO, I was also serving at the CDO Council, and I was chairing the data sharing working group. In fact, this is one of the first things that we looked to see how can we improve data sharing, specifically in the federal government, but even outside, right? And I tell you, there were like three major things that we looked at the time for data sharing, right? One was to streamline those complicated data agreements that we have that usually take way too long time to be ratified. Two is to improve some of the data awareness. And the last one was about improving the data quality. So bottom line, everything comes down to actually taking a risk. And when somebody wants to request data, right, they are the ones associated with the rewards. But the provider of the data is only associated with the risk. And this is how they see it. And this is how sometimes this process takes too long to the point that it's not happening, right? But what we do here, and I tell you, this is my approach to everything. I'm more of a carrot person than a stick, right? I try to put, instead of focusing on the risk that somebody's taking, I'm trying to focus on the rewards. And I tell you, this is what we implemented at HHS while I was the CDO there, which is one, we had the inaugural HHS Data Excellence Awards, right? To again put some light on the rewards of like what can go well when you're taking those risks, when you're taking this step forward to do something great, right? The other things that we did there. The other thing was the profiles. So we created like small stories, success stories of some of these folks that they took those risks, they shared data, and they produced something amazing. And like I said, instead of focusing on the risk part and trying to put some more light on the reward part to make people more attracted to the end result of what we're trying to achieve.
I've heard that in my career a lot, covering the federal government, how much the carrot and sticking balance, how much that carrot side of things can really fall short. Certainly, I know that's the way to treat adults generally is my feeling.
No. It's easy to focus. I think this is a little bit of human nature, right? It's easy to focus on the negative results and lose sight of the what can go well, right? And or why we do it at the end of the day. But this is important to tip the scale towards the reward part versus the risk part.
You mentioned earlier the way that industry innovates and ARPA-H's role in innovating ahead of industry, but obviously partnerships are a big part of what you do at ARPA-H. What's that role, not just with industry, but also with other agencies, state and local health agencies, and the various different partners that you have?
Absolutely. So, and actually, I would take it a step further. Even within the department, right? We working closely with all the actives, right, within HHS, right, either on the mission side or on the technology side, to be able to do better data sharing, like we were talking earlier, to bring technologies to bear. Actually, I will examine the opportunity to co-innovate, right? To figure out partners within the department that they will be willing to jump into experimenting the new technology or innovating together to bring something to bear.
You've talked about it a fair amount, but is there anything we didn't talk about as far as your CDO experience at HHS? Because obviously you're part of this other component of HHS. How's that shuffling go around, and what are you bringing to this role that you had in your previous role? What kind of experience, what kind of knowledge?
So I tell you, for the past year, while I was at HHS in the role of the CDO, my biggest priority was to finalize the data strategy. In fact, I remember when I was looking but transitioning to ARPA-H, I wanted it to happen after we announced it. In fact, we did announce the HHS data strategy a day before I left HHS. But I think the data strategy that we put over the past year together, right? It was very well thought strategy. We did a 360 degrees landscape analysis. So we did talk to the leadership of HHS. We did talk to stakeholders of HHS. We did talk to key partners on the technology side that we can leverage. And actually, it's the data strategy that we put together, I think, is very much in line with what HHS should focus in terms of data right now. So, and I don't know if you have the opportunity to look it up, but we have 5 pillars, right, that we try to put more focus. And that will be talent, that will be data sharing, like we mentioned multiple times today. That will be internal operations, leveraging the human services data, which is something that we haven't done as much as the health data traditionally did. And lastly, of course, artificial intelligence. If we have any data strategy coming in 2023 and didn't have any reference to artificial intelligence, we will be failing our job. But I think those are the 5 pillars that we focused on our data strategy. We also have 2 use cases, one of which we have a lot of equity. Specifically, one of the 2 use cases is the cancer moonshot that you're probably aware. This is one of the initiatives that we're working here at ARPA-H as well.
You mentioned AI. I cannot have any conversation near a hot mic without asking, what do you see for AI in the future at ARPA-H?
Well, definitely AI is in the future of ARPA-H. And I tell you, we do work actually with HHS headquarters for the AI strategy that we're supposed to send back by, I believe, March timeframe. So I would say AI is like any other emerging technology. It's not just AI, but it will be definitely in our horizon to leverage to the maximum extent. Ethically, within the parameters that it will keep us safe, like any technology, like any big disruptor, I would say it does have its pitfalls, right? So we're gonna avoid the pitfalls as much as possible, but we definitely will not. We're gonna look to leverage it as much as possible as well.
Of course, there's no conversations that are happening in government, I'm sure, without AI.
Well, and I tell you, it's interesting because when we started talking about the data strategy, most of the focus was about emerging technologies, including AI. But as the last year unfolded, pretty much we focus more on AI than anything else, because it is a huge disruptor in technology right now.
The speed of it has been mind-blowing, the way things have changed, not just over the last year, but over the last few years, to see the ways that generative AI has really evolved.
Absolutely. I think AI, like you said, is changing over many years, but actually became a topic this past year. I think any technology, as soon as it hits the consumer market, that's when it skyrockets, and it's making a big change in the industry. I think this is what made the big difference last year with AI, that it hit the hands of everybody, like from my high school kids, right? That every school is looking for ways to leverage AI while preventing kids over relying on AI to do their work. To us, I mean, in essence, it's a double-edged sword. I would say that it concerns every market, not just us.
Yeah, once it hits my retired parents, or my mom was retired, I think that's the point where it's really reached saturation, I know. And she's a former public servant, but she wasn't in that world. Is there anything that we didn't cover that you think we should chat about?
No, I would say, again, reach back to us probably some time later on when I have a better understanding, a better grasp of what we will be doing here. But the thing is that I'm still on the learning mode. As you can only imagine, we are a brand new organization and we have to work on multiple fronts. It's like we're standing up an IT shop that we didn't have before. We supporting ARPA-H with the onboarding of multiple people, because ARPA-H is growing up rapidly as well. And at the same time, we try to innovate. So as you can imagine, sometimes it feels like we're doing too many things at the same time. But like I said, I'm still learning. If we talk 6 months from now, we'll probably even less than that. I might give you a different perspective again. Like I said earlier, we're agile. Any plan that we put in today might not be the same 4 to 6 months from now.
Of course, it's the speed of innovation, and the speed of healthcare as well is certainly quick. Well, thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me.
Thank you, Ross. That was a fascinating conversation with Nikolaos Ipiotis. Before we let our listeners go, do you have any last highlights or takeaways to leave them with?
As you heard sort of at the end, we did talk about AI, because there's no way to talk about government IT without AI. And I think Nick Ipiotis was really clear on the fact that AI is a part of this as much as anything else. So ARPA-H will be involved in that just as much as it will be in all the other things that ARPA-H innovates with and within.
Yeah, I know that AI was only discussed at the tail end of your conversation, but it really is difficult to overstate just how big of a role that technology is going to play for all agencies going forward. Well, thank you so much, Ross. Listeners can tune in. Hold on a second. We actually have some news to announce. So starting in February, we are moving all of our podcasts, GovCast, Cybercast, and HealthCast, into one podcast feed, GovCIO Media and Research Podcasts. It is the old GovCast feed starting February 1st. And this is a great opportunity to bring you all of our content in one convenient place. So you'll be getting a GovCast, a HealthCast, a Cybercast, and a Cancer HealthCast all in the same feed each and every month. So we will have a little bit of time where you still get some HealthCasts in this feed. But if you're listening now, you should go on over and make sure that you're subscribed to GovCast, or if it's past February 1st, to GovCIO Media and Research Podcasts to continue enjoying all of our content. But until then, if you like what you heard, make sure you leave a review and a 5-star rating on our new podcast feed. Make sure you're subscribed to our new podcast feed. And hey, tell a friend about our new podcast feed. We always appreciate growing our audience. Hey, Ross, did I plug our new podcast feed enough?
Word of mouth is always the best advertising, so tell your friends. I co-sign on that 100%.
That's right, especially when we have such exciting news as a, wait for it, new podcast feed, GovCIO Media and Research Podcast. I can't state that enough. Please subscribe there. Well, thank you again, Ross. I'm Alexander Bolova.
I'm Ross John Fortune.
Thank you for listening. Healthcast, along with GovCast and Cybercast, is a production of GovCIO Media and Research. For more podcasts and to check out the other shows, head to govciomedia.com. Watch out for new episodes released every Tuesday and Wednesday across our shows. You can follow all of them on your favorite podcast platform. And if you like what you heard, make sure to let us know by leaving a review. And if you have any topics you think we should look into, contact us at newsletter@govcio.com.